Hi there, Sarah Mitchell from Inspired Education Services here, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to help dyslexic kids in the classroom. If you want some little fact sheets that will give you more tips and information on how to accommodate kids with dyslexia in your classroom, stay until the end of this video and I'm going to show you how to get some freebies that I've made for you. Dyslexia on the whole tends to get pretty well misunderstood by the public and even by teachers. A lot of people think that dyslexia is a visual problem, and so usually try to help kids by doing things like using coloured paper or overlays. Dyslexia is actually a language-based difficulty, and most dyslexic people tend to have trouble with phonological awareness, that is, storing and mapping sounds in spoken words. And the reason they have so much trouble with reading and spelling then is because they can't map the sounds in spoken words, so then it's very difficult to go on to map the sounds in written words. So things like coloured overlays aren't really going to solve the problem for them. Some other typical areas that dyslexics tend to have trouble with is working memory. So working memory is the ability to hold information in the mind and work with it at the same time. It quite often gets mistaken for short-term memory. So a short-term memory task might be if someone told you their phone number and asked you to remember it for a certain period of time. A working memory task would be if they told you their phone number and then asked you to say it backward. So working memory gets used really heavily in maths tasks and writing tasks and pretty much every classroom task, remembering instructions, trying to remember what you wanted to write. Working memory is a much greater indicator of academic success than IQ, according to Tracy Alloway. The other one that dyslexic people tend to have difficulty with is processing speed, verbal processing speed. So they tend to take just a little bit longer to take in verbal information and process it in the brain. This is not a hearing difficulty, it's a processing difficulty. So what are some things we can do to help kids in the classroom? Well, the first thing we can do is to slow down how quickly we speak and to pause between sentences and to try and speak less. So speak more concisely with more information, but condense down what we're saying so that our explanations last no more than 2 to 4 minutes. The other thing we can do is try and reduce the working memory load required for a lot of tasks. So for things like maths, rather than asking them to copy the questions down off the board, you could do something like just give them a photocopied worksheet where they can fill in the answers so that there's one less task that they have to be thinking about in order to get through on the maths program. For phonological awareness, we can do things like introducing new vocabulary and talking about the sound properties in the words as we do so. So instead of just talking about meanings, which we quite often do, introduce a new word and then talk about what the word means, we can also break that word into syllables and help the kids to pronounce the word correctly, and also talk about the initial and the end sound and map all the sounds in between. You know when someone goes, oh, there's a word I want to use and I can't quite think of it, but it's on the tip of my tongue. They're usually not saying there's this word and I don't know the meaning. They're usually saying, I know the meaning of it, I just can't quite think of the word. That's a phonological difficulty. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, we've just covered a very, very brief range here. You can download click below and download my working memory and phonological awareness checklists, which also contain a great big bunch of accommodations you can use in a classroom to help kids that have those kinds of difficulties. And I'll be back with more videos on this in the near future.